If you put a gun to my head, deGrom's the best pitcher in my lifetime. How
Wow.
about that?
Wow.
This
It's,
current version of deGrom is the best anybody has ever been.
Pitching Ninja, Pitching Ninja. We got sliders and fastballs and curveballs too. When you step in the box, man, you're gonna be through. So
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fun week of the Pitching Ninja Show. I am Pitching Ninja. As always, please hit that subscribe button because we're awesome. And by we, I mean me and Will. Producer Will, how are you doing?
Ninja, not bad, man. Excuse me. Sox are kicking buns. They just swept the Yankees in the Bronx the first time in a decade.
It's all about the Sox for you, isn't it?
Well, also in Pujols, he's been hitting some bombs, continuing to rise the ranks in some of the most important batting stats in history. But the real story this week, that might sound like a broken record, but it's Jacob deGrom. He needs to chill it. He's striking out 45% of the guys he's faced. He's throwing harder than any starter in history, and he's truly having one of the best starts to a season ever. People are comparing him to the legendary 1968 Bob Gibson season. A glaring difference is Gibson used to pitch complete games almost every single time out, but it is a different era. And one thing I will point out too is that in Gibson's era, that year, the average ERA was 2.98. This year it's over 4. So deGrom is pitching an era where they do give up more runs. What I want to know is, what does Pitching Ninja think about deGrom's current season compared to some of the all-time greatest seasons in baseball history?
I'm in awe. I watched the guy pitch and I'm in awe, and it's probably similar to what, watching Pedro back in the day or watching Bob Gibson in 68. I mean, you're just in awe of the performance. It's hard to judge him. I think deGrom, if you put a gun to my head, deGrom's the best pitcher in my lifetime. How about that?
Wow.
This current version of deGrom is the best anybody has ever been.
All right, Ninja, make an early prediction so I can use this footage later if you're right, or just burn it if you're wrong. How do you think deGrom ends the season?
My guess is his ERA will be around 1 and maybe a tad over. He's bound to have a start where he's not that good, but 0.6. I don't see people stringing together hits. It may be a 3-run homer. He could have given up a grand slam his last outing. He ended up K-ing both batters he faced with the bases loaded. But it could be, someone lucks into a home run, my favorite phrase. But somebody could get lucky with runners on and then drive his ERA up. But he is showing no signs of, he's showing signs of strengthening. That doesn't even make any sense. His last outing was legit the highest average fastball since we've been measuring them.
He threw the most 100-per-hour pitches in an outing in history at 33. And the start before this, he threw the third most in history at, I think, 28.
The rest of the stuff, it's hard to say. His whip is a 0.8 out of the question.
His whip through 9 starts is the lowest in history, and we've been recording for over 100 years.
I know, what do I don't want to put out absurd numbers and stuff, but he's going to be absurd. It's going to be Pedro's best season, maybe better than that. It is mind-boggling how good that dude is.
So there's been some chatter in the baseball world now about deGrom possibly leading the charge for MVP votes. Would you have him as your MVP? And with Shohei Ohtani potentially being the MVP in the American League. What are your thoughts on these two, Ninja?
Dude, I am heavily biased in favor of pitchers, and if the Met,
you don't say, Ninja.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. It should be a rare pitcher that's an MVP, obviously, because I also understand the argument position players play every day, and that's important. Pitchers having a disproportionate impact the day they pitch, though. And with the Mets playing as well as they are, and deGrom leading that staff and probably helping everybody on that staff and helping everybody on the team just raise their game. Finally, they're actually raising their game to his level, as opposed to him having to do a lot of heavy lifting. So yeah, why not? And Ohtani, playing both ways, he is maybe the most watched guy in baseball. How do you not want to watch everything that guy does? Stuff you've never seen. So yeah, I'm totally in favor of both of those guys being MVPs.
Yeah, and I'd say baseball more than any other sport rewards the best player. In other leagues, football, basketball, the team's record is really important for MVP votes. But as we've seen in the past, Trout's won a bunch of MVPs on bad teams. It's more about just how good an individual player is because of the nature of the game and how little a person can impact a team's success. That being said, deGrom is the best player in the National League. He's far and away the best pitcher, and as you said, he might be the best pitcher in the last 50 years. We don't even know who the best hitter is, so he's the best player, should get the MVP. And on the other side, Ohtani is one of the best power hitters in the American League, and he's 6th in ERA. It's not just a circus show. The guy is absolutely incredible. He's the most talked about guy for a reason, getting compared to Babe Ruth for all these different things all the time. It's because he's the best player in the American League.
Yeah, absolutely.
This week's Long Dong Award goes to Jesse Power Stacks Winker for this trio of dongs he hit on Sunday. And the third one ultimately winning the game in the 9th inning, 7-7 tie game, and he blasts this one to Kokomo.
He is absolutely must-watch TV every one of his at-bats tonight right now.
Power Stacks Winker, this is his second 3-homer game of the year, and just an awesome guy. I saw him a lot last year in Bauer's vlog when I was doing it. Salt of the earth guy, big Bills fan, just a complete freak show. And I'm glad he's going to make his first All-Star game this year. And who knows, maybe he'll even snatch the MVP from Shohei.
And now, PitchingNinja's Top 10 Filthiest Pitchers of the Week.
At number 10, we have a tie, and I'm going to give my college folks a shout out. We had Jack Leiter, absolutely dominant, hitting 99 on the gun, ridiculous breaking stuff, total filth fest. Also had Doug Nikhazy, 16 Ks. The man is a complete freak on the bump and like one of the most fun pitchers to watch. And lastly, we had Montana Fouts, who threw a perfect game on her 21st birthday. She is absolutely disgusting, not as a person. Seems like a great person, but her stuff is disgusting. And she deserves a spot on this top 10, despite not being a baseball player. At number 9, I'm going to give it to my man, Nate Evaldi, who threw this wicked cutter, got Brett Gardner's sword on it, got into a debate on Twitter over it. Somebody said, why do people swing at pitches out of the zone? This dude is throwing 101 with 94-mile-an-hour dead zone cutters. At number 8, Max Scherzer's curveball. I think this is the second week in a row that Max Scherzer's 5th pitch, his 5th best pitch, makes it in this countdown. And it is well-deserved as he gets the buckle on a curveball that ends up in the strike zone. And if you can do that with your curveball to a major league hitter, you deserve a spot in the top 10. At number 7, Yu Darvish's two-seamer. This one was a little funky because he wanted to throw one of those front hip two-seamers. Instead, he started out a little bit not front hip, and it just kept running. And Lindor could do nothing but flail at it. Just an absolutely nasty pitch. At number 6, Shohei Ohtani's splitters. His splitter is unhittable. If you match it up with his fastball, they start out basically in the same plane, and the splitter just dives or runs away from the fastball, and he ends up with a lot of swings and misses, and nobody squaring that pitch up. At number 5, Captain Hook, showing why he's Captain Hook. TJ Antone with just an array of breaking stuff. He is pure filth on the mound and a ton of fun to watch, and a friend of the show as we had him on earlier in the year. Number 4, Mike King. Mike King deserves a spot here. It wasn't his greatest outing, but it was his greatest inning. He threw an immaculate inning, just purely nasty stuff, and makes it here at number 4. At number 3, I'm heavily biased in favor of this pitch, but Corbin Burnes' backdoor cutter is the prettiest pitch in baseball. We're talking mid to upper 90s cutters that he can constantly hit that spot on, and then occasionally he runs them glove side, and they work more like a slider. 13 Ks, no walks, incredible outing, and mostly due to his cutter. And number 2, and Jacob deGrom should never be number 2 at anything, but Jacob deGrom had a ridiculous sequence against Will Myers where he got Will Myers to bail on a slider middle. And then what did deGrom do? He just threw nothing but sliders after that to Will Myers. And it's the second week in a row we used deGrom as an example of just torturing hitters with his slider. And at number 1, Kyle Crick's sliders. Have you ever seen a 3,600 RPM slider? Well, you're about to. I don't know what you do with this except almost get hit by it while it starts over the middle of the plate. Not only that, but Kyle Crick in the press conference afterwards in the Zoom call wore his Sword t-shirt that he won a couple of years ago when he won Sword of the Week on my account. So Kyle Crick, a big fan of the show, and I'm a big fan of him because you throw 3,600 RPM sliders and it is like CGI City. It is freaking disgusting stuff. So I recently had the opportunity to talk with one of my favorite pitchers in the major leagues. Favorite pitcher because his stuff is off the charts filthy. I interviewed Blake Treinen. Great insight into his pitching mindset, his grips, and whether or not he used sticky stuff as I got into a discussion with somebody on Twitter. And we really got to the bottom of that too. So love talking with him. And without further ado, here's Blake Treinen.
When I was a sophomore in high school, I was 5'6", 240. I was fighting a couple different things. I had delayed bone growth for like 2 years. I was 2 years behind schedule. I had like borderline type 2 diabetes. My sugar levels were extremely elevated. So like my hips, my knees, and my ankles were so stiff in the mornings when I'd wake up. I always just thought it's because I slept in a cold basement and walking up the stairs is just part of life. And then my mom's like, "Wait, you hurt that bad every day when you get up?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, so we went and saw somebody and they said, "Yeah, you're showing signs of like junior rheumatoid arthritis." And so I got into video games. I stopped playing baseball my sophomore year. Honestly, I got bullied a lot, really really heavily in high school. And I wouldn't change any of it now. I think it's unfortunate that people have to go through it, but I think God brings you through some pain and struggle to bring you on the other side. My sophomore summer, I had to go on a diet. I started running and my weight started coming off. And then I went to San Diego to stay with my cousins. And in California, eating habits are a little different in the Midwest. There's no like biscuits and gravy, like hash browns, like just like country cooking. It's just straight like lean, smaller portions. And they cracked me in on that, and we were super active. So like Christmas of my sophomore year versus first day of school my junior year, I went from 240 to a $195. So I dropped a lot of weight, changed a lot of things, and baseball became fun for me again. And so I went out again my junior year and senior year, and not a lot of crazy accomplishments in high school. I was never like a first team all county or anything. I loved pitching, and I really wanted to play college baseball, but like I had no idea what that looked like. The only option I had, Baker University. I went there my freshman year. I didn't get any better. I was paying a lot of money to not have an academic focus that I wanted, and they understood that. And so when I said I was going to transfer to Arkansas, they kind of were on board with it. For me, I just didn't want to sit and play baseball without there being a legitimate future, and also not pursue academic focus and just be set back into different areas with a lot of debt. And so I went to Arkansas. I actually walked in August to the Arkansas baseball offices and said, "Hey, I just wanted to see if you guys have a walk-on program, how that looks." And the lady's like, "Yeah, come back on this day and we'll get a time for you." And I was like, "Cool." So I was pumped that they had a walk-on program, or so I thought. I showed back up a couple weeks later, and I said, "Yeah, I'm here to schedule a time for a walk-on tryout." And the lady's like, "Yeah, let me go grab somebody." And volunteer assistant walked through the front door, and he walked in the front door, and he's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I was just trying to schedule a walk-on tryout time, and I was told to come back today." He's like, "Oh," and he started chuckling. I was like, "What's so funny?"
Yeah.
He's like, "What's so funny?" He's like, "Dude, we don't do walk-ons here." And I said, "You know what? Screw it. Like, I'm going to do all these lifts that they say I'm not supposed to do," because back then there was a big taboo on doing bench press or certain lifts because it would restrict your ability to throw a baseball. And I was like, I know I'm weak, but I know I've got a frame, and it's on my heart, from God, to keep playing baseball.
That is literally an amazing story, because you hear from all these guys that have everything together. There's no reason that you should be a Major League Baseball player, less one of the great pitchers in the major leagues right now. So let's go through some pitch grips. Let's start with your sinker, which is, I don't know if the grip's unique, but I know the pitch is unique.
Yeah, the grip's not that unique, to be honest with you. It's just straight up two-seamer. My thumb, some guys kind of grip under.
I thought you were doing a one-seam before, no?
So that was kind of something that was a mindset, and I was taught in college to like angle and then pull off this one seam.
Yep.
And early in my career, I did throw it off this one seam. I always tried to see the one seam line.
Gotcha.
And then at some point I started seeing two lines. And I don't know how it happens or, what I do specifically. I don't try to pronate. Honestly, I think about just blocking off my front side as long as I can. Because if I fly open too soon, then it's kind of flat.
How do you feel the ball is rotating through there?
If I'm throwing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's spinning kind of like this.
Gotcha.
So like at this angle. So if I throw it up in the zone, it probably tilts more like this, and that's why it runs this way. Draw a line opposite of it, right?
Yep.
So ideally, I want it like this, so that way it drops on two plane.
Yep.
That makes sense. So
Yep.
if I'm throwing it, it's got like this two seam. If I throw my two seam, I'm going to come around it like this. I want it to kind of spin off my hand like this.
Your slider and cutter.
So cutter is traditionally a four seam,
Mhm.
higher seam, longer finger. And all I do is I just kind of slide my hand down here and put a lot of pressure on this finger, and this finger just kind of rests. Instead if I try to throw a true four seamer, I'd be behind the ball like this. With my cutter, I'm just trying to create like almost not like you're throwing a football, but just kind of a subtle turn that way. And I just stay on top of the ball and try to drive it. And then slider, just imagine my two seam or my sinker, and I just slide my finger above that seam, and I baby spike. Trevor's telling me, he's like, everybody's coming at you using sticky stuff. Like, oh, you got to be using the sticky to get that movement. And I said, you know what? People would think what they want, but I'll get on here and clear it with you. Like, I'm not playing around with that stuff to take away what God's given me. This right here is a gift from God and a gift from the people he's put in my life. Has nothing to do with substance. The substance is him, not anything on the ball. So I don't really, if anybody wants to know if I'm using anything, I mean, find gentlemen like yourself and other pitching people around the country that know things about spin rate and stuff that correlates with it. I think you can see that my spin rate's down. You can't really have low spin rate when you use that stuff. So I've never really used anything in my career. I mean, some days when it's super cold out, I will say a lot of people grab for sweat. You got to pull the chalk off the ball. But outside of that, there ain't nothing being used except for a gift. So very grateful for it.
So this has been another fun week of the Pitching Ninja Show. Remember, subscribe. And until next time, I'm going to K-Strode on out of here. Keep throwing flames.
Strike